brogues, black flat-heeled lace-ups with ornamental perforated bands on the toe. My favorite shoes. Bought them in a Bata store in Barrie, Ontario in 1989. I loved them. They walked with me everywhere, with suits to work, with casual pants on errand runs. I had the soles replaced twice in 2 years. And in 1991 there was Paris. My friend Rosalie and I decided to experience the sights and the sounds of the City of Lights. Alongside the automobile-congested main thoroughfares with their honking and yelling drivers, people were everywhere. I mean everywhere. More people than Montreal. Paris, big, dirty, crowded. Over a bridge and on to Ile de la Cité, to Notre Dame Cathedral, where I stood in awe of the construction that began in 1163 and took 200 years to complete. Now that's a cathedral. That's what I call construction. Big, solid, grandiose. Up past the ritzy shops and restaurants of the Champs-Élysées, where snooty Frenchmen look down their noses at North Americans. We headed in the direction of our hotel through Montparnasse, feeling very uneasy, passing clusters of egocentric men calling, "Ah, American women love Frenchmen!" Rosalie and I arrived at our hotel at 12:35 a.m. We had walked about 6 miles in 12 hours, seen the biggest landmarks of Paris in one day, on foot. My legs were tired, my feet were tired, my shoes were scuffed, but no matter. I had my soles replaced when I got home.
In 1971, I traveled to Europe on a quest to purchase a pair of Yugoslavian leather dance shoes called Opansky. Now, Opanskys are folk dance shoes with horizontal slits across the top and curled up toes. En route to the apartment, I passed a small shoe shop, and in the window, lo and behold, were the Opansky. I went in, and with no common language to use and with very little money, bartered and sign-languaged and got the Opanskys. Well, feeling extremely happy, I went on to find my apartment. Visitor accommodation in Yugoslavia was state-controlled, and I was assigned some random room in the apartment of someone who wanted to make some extra money. I checked in with a woman and headed to the small room. I took my time to unpack and decided to check out downtown Belgrade. And that was when the trouble started. My host had left and had naturally locked the apartment. Unfortunately, in Belgrade, one needs a key to get in and out, and I was locked in. I pounded on the door. No response. No answer. I went to the balcony and screamed, "Let me out of here! Somebody get me out of here! I want out!" After about 5 minutes of solid yelling, I finally got a response from a young fellow who popped out of the neighboring balcony. I think he got the gist of my message because he started gesturing back. Now, by the time the apologetic hostess returns, I was totally miffed, and striding as huffily as I could, I headed straight back to the train station to catch the next train back to Athens. I have never been so happy to see a train arrive. Ironically, upon arriving in Canada, I realized that somewhere between Belgrade and home, I had managed to lose one of them.
Today has turned sad because it is quite clear that my favorite pair of black and white Vans have to be retired. From the top they look fine, nicely worn in and comfortable. However, turn them over and you'll see gaping holes looking up at you. I've tried to patch them up with tape, electrical and otherwise, but during a lunchtime walk today it was raining and they leaked, and then I got the wet foot. In September they would have been 2 years old. They were purchased about 30 miles north of Detroit at the Vans outlet located in a big indoor outlet mall. They were made in China by sweaty pseudo-Maoists chained to their sewing machines. One of the great consequences of the Cultural Revolution over there is my ability to purchase cheap shoes in suburban Michigan surrounded by Republican voting double-wide Americans. They've walked a few thousand kilometers on the sidewalks of Toronto, hiked up snow-covered mountains in Colorado, wandered the bookstores of Ann Arbor, and carried me safely past police barricades while I shouted anti-capitalist slogans I may or may not have believed in. They've stood in bathroom pee puddles at some of the finer Toronto bars and nightclubs, and in the 4 a.m. vomit, cocaine, GHB, Rohypnol runoff at certain 7 Mile Road Detroit after-hours ghetto booze cans. letting me remain intact and unmolested while watching all the different things people do to each other at these places. At some point tomorrow on Queen Street, their replacement will be purchased in a wonderful tribute to capitalism and sweatshop labor. And yet, somewhere inside the sweet soul of my beautiful worn-out vans, their tiny California punk rock skateboard voice will sing a weeping version of The Times They Are A-Changing, because they know they've arrived at their teleological garbage can fate, and they can't do nothing about it, because there's a pair of sexy blue pumas whispering, "Let us take you to the next flaming red horizon that screams your name."